What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the best Evade Spiritborn build in Diablo's 4 new season. This setup turns you into a living hurricane of feathers and projectiles that auto-target everything in a sight. And the best part is that you barely have to lift a finger. The foundation of this build is the Eagle Primary Spirit Hull, also known as the AMH, and this is where your true power comes from. Unlike in the past seasons, the Storm Feather now will launch both when you cast an Eagle skill and when you evade. This change alone turns Evade from a movement button into a full-blown DPS engine. In the early game, you'll be mainly using Evade. That means cast Thunder Spike, which reduces Evade cooldowns, and then use Evade in between to unleash feathers. Then by level 15, you can already feel the loop clicking into place. Once you stack enough cooldown reduction, specifically the 42% with Alacrity, you will graduate into the true Evade-born state. At that point, Evade stops being a button you time and becomes something that you spam forever. And this is where the build truly shines. And then later, once you pick up the Whoosh Knack Pa as a chaos armor, then you can crank up the EMH damage even higher. Pair that with the right legendary tempers and your Storm Feathers will start deleting everything from trash mobs to elites without even aiming. And remember, if you want to check this build, look up the best items, the skill trees and path of building, then check my link in the description. And before we continue, thanks to U4GM, they are a pro website that provides Diablo 4 services like cheap gold with fast delivery and pro carry runs, as well as unique and legendary items. They also have more than 17,000 comments on Trustpilot, and this website is really worth a try. So make sure to use my discount code KATE for extra 6% off. So let's take a look at our skills. The Thunder Spike is your bread and butter. Early on, it applies vulnerable end every third cast and reduces your evade cooldown by 5 seconds. This is the backbone of evade weaving. Later on, once you achieve the perma evade, you don't need to lean on it heavily, but it still keeps vulnerable rolling for big damage. Then Armor Hide is your defensive anchor. It grants unstoppable and resolve, while also giving you 100% block chance. That block chance will directly fuel the redirect force bonus, which means that insane tankiness and insane damage go hand in hand. Then counter attack is here for close quarter situations. It increases your critical strike damage based on the number of nearby enemies, which makes it ideal for big pulls and boss phases. Then Seeker is your ultimate and it's ridiculously strong. With it active, you get permanent critical strikes. On top of that, it activates resolution and supremacy by supercharging your damage for the duration. And then lastly, there's the Frosty Strides. Thanks to the Merit Guard, every evade you use also applies freeze, by giving you the free crowd control and even more survivability to spam your feathers. Then on top of it, we have the Spirit Hull. Your Spirit Hull choice will finalize this build package. Your primary is always the Eagle main hull, since it makes Evade unleash feathers and directly scales with the Whoosh Knack Pa. This is the engine that drives everything. Then secondary starts with the Gorilla Hull, which is great in the early Torment. It gives unstoppable and adds damage that helps you to survive while still building the gear. But then later, once you picked up the Loyalty's Mantle, you can swap to the Eagle secondary hull. That change will supercharge your vulnerability damage and reduce cooldowns on the Seeker. The timing of the swap is critical. If you do it too early, then you will feel squishier than you want. But if you do it too late, then you're leaving damage on the table. The main rule of thumb here is to use Gorilla until Loyalty's Mantle is equipped, and then immediately move into the double Eagle for the maximum synergy. Next up we have gear. First and foremost, you need to use plus evade charges on the boots. Without this implicit, the whole thing falls apart. You also need the 42% total evade cooldown reduction with the Alacrity, or 59% without it. Just keep in mind, the cooldown reduction is multi-applicative here, so you can't add just stats together. And then once those bases are covered, the real fun begins with the mythics and the chaos armor. The Shroud of the False Death is your number 1 mythic. It gives you survivability, damage and resource generation all at once. The buffs stack up about a 40 to 60% overall increase, which is absurdly strong. For chaos armor, the Whoosh Knack Pa is the top priority. Ideally, you want it as a gloves or the helmet, and it massively amplifies the Eagle main hull's damage. Loyalty's Mantle is also fantastic, by boosting EMH and reducing cooldowns for the Seeker. These two pieces together feel the backbone of the endgame setup, and then there's the alternatives depending on your progression pact. The Yasin Shell will help to shore up armor, and in particular it's useful for speed farming, since it makes you tankier without sacrificing tempo. Then Harmony of the Ebevaka used to be awkward, but it's now fixed, as it lets your secondary spirit tags apply more broadly, which means Sunbird's Gorge Plus Harmony will suddenly turn the feathers into a Jaguar skill with a bonus damage. In my opinion, this is a sleeper combo that a lot of players overlook. Then Band of the Wrist Breath is another sneaky pick, by letting you slot in extra offensive aspects like the Concede. And of course, the Fist of Fate and the Sunbird's Gorge round out the list with a strong offensive scaling. So the one big takeaway here is not to lock yourself into one exact setup. As long as you are focusing on cooldown reduction, evade charges, and at least one armor that boosts EMH, then you can mix and match around what jobs for you. That flexibility is why this build feels so good in this season, as you can progress it naturally without waiting on one perfect piece. And then for consumables, they're straightforward. Use the Soothing Spices, Queen Supreme, the Redamine Buzz, and the Elixir of the Resourcefulness Stew. Together, these smooth out sustain, cooldowns, and the damage. Then we got Runes, and the best combo is the Sandplastic Axe. This provides a massive raw damage increase, and should be your go-to whenever possible. Another strong option is the Back plus the Q, which grants barrier for the Earthquake Bulwark, by layering survivability on top of the feather spam. If you don't have a top tier option yet, then Seer is useful for the extra offering. Then Zek helps with maintain the Seeker's uptime. Then Tal can add Frost Nova for the bonus CC. And Ohm gives you a Warcry for the damage bump. Next up we got Chaos perks. I recommend to start with the Alacrity. It's the single most important perk because it speeds up the evade cooldowns, and it is the key to unlocking the perma evade build. You wanna pair it with Accelerating Chaos to reduce cooldowns even further, and Merit Guard for increased armor and barrier generation. For your unique perk, you want a Beast Cornered. Thanks to the Merit Guard capping your health at 50%, this perk straight up doubles your damage. This is a super insane buff and takes the build from just strong to super OP. If you need alternatives, then Erupting Chaos will help with the extra cooldown reduction, and Brawn over Brains will add max life if you're finding yourself too squishy. And lastly, as for the gem setup, it's super simple. You wanna run Weapon Runes for the offense, Emeralds in the armor for the crit scaling, and Diamond in your amulet for all-round resilience, and then Skulls in the rings for sustain. Next up we got our skill tree, which is built to maximize agility, crit scaling, and the barrier synergy. On the offensive side, you focus on the crit chance, crit damage, and the one ability damage multipliers. These nodes make every feather hit harder and more consistently. Then attack speed nodes also matter, since faster inputs mean more feather procs. Then defensively, we invest into the barrier related upgrades. These not only keep you alive, but also synergize with the Paragon bonuses that increase damage while you have a barrier active. You wanna add in damage reduction while moving, and suddenly dodging around the battlefield doesn't just make you safe, but it actively makes you stronger. Overall, this tree ties everything in a small loop, so strike fast, evade often, stay protected, and let your spirit affinities, especially the Eagle and the Storm Feather, scale your damage super high. Then next up we have the Paragon board. We want to start with the Talent board, stacking crit scaling and the core offensive stats. Next we move into the Vicious Shield and the Jagged Plum, which brings defensive layering through the barrier synergy, while still boosting the damage. Then Convergence / the Spirit board will amp up our Spirit Hull damage and resource efficiency. After that, the Sapping / Colossal board will scale max life and mitigation, making you tanky enough for the nightmare pushing. And finally, finish it off with the Drive / Canny board, which rewards consistent movement with more power. By the end, you're looking at over 200% base damage, 209% crit damage, 38% one-ball damage, and 90% bonus damage against elites. Defensively, you're packing 57% max life and barrier multipliers, and 22% damage reduction while moving. Add in plus 40 spirit potency from the Gorilla, Eagle, and the Stormfeather bonuses, and this whole setup seems to start feeling super unfair. Then for the Mercenaries, the best permanent hire is the Rekier. He shield charge, taunts enemies, and groups them up, which makes your feathers hit everything at once. He also boosts your armor and the damage reduction, keeping you safe in the thick of the things. Then for reinforcements, pick the Altkin. Every time you cast a skill, he jobs the Field of the Languish by reducing incoming damage. It's simple but incredibly effective for smoothing out the fight. And now finally, let's take a look at the gameplay. In the early game, you'll be using the Evade Weaving combo, which means hold down your Thunder Spike to apply Wannable, then evade to unleash feathers, and then rinse and repeat. Don't go too fast, or you will miss your cooldown resets, so keep it steady and you will melt everything around you. Also, always keep Armor Hide up for the Unstoppable and the Block chance, and use Counter Attack when surrounded or facing bosses to push the crit damage higher. Cast Rock Splitter every few seconds to keep the unyielding hits it's active, especially in the tougher fights. And then when you need the one-shot combo, just pop the Seeker for the guaranteed crits and the huge uptime on the Supremacy. Then once you've graduated into the perma evade, then rotation gets even easier. You just spam evade endlessly, layering storm feathers everywhere while keeping defensive cooldowns rolling. In our final form, the bosses and elites barely stand a chance. It's like watching enemies disappear in split seconds right in front of you. And then for farming, you'll often find yourself clearing entire packs before they even reach you. The doors remain your worst enemy, but open spaces are where the build feels godlike. Then against bosses, the strategy is all about pacing your cooldowns. Drop the Seeker at the start, weave in the Rock Splitter for the unyielding hits, and use Armor Hide whenever you see a big mechanic coming. A common mistake is overspamming evade before you've stacked enough cooldown reduction. If you don't have the perma evade yet, then keep weaving Thunderstrike into the rotation, or you'll find yourself sitting on the cooldowns with nothing to do. But once the stats are there, you will feel the shift immediately, so you will go from juggling abilities to flowing through the fights in split seconds like a storm.